Content creation was never a career until about, 10 years ago maybe? My first video popped off, went wild, and I was like, thank you, Jats. Especially, it's quite a lonely career being a content creator, and taking that first step is the hardest step, and people often don't jump into content because they don't know how to start.
What is your end goal? Like, why are you doing all this? On today's podcast, I'm joined by Gabriel, who recently left his job at Barclays to become a full-time content creator. We discussed how he gained over 1 million followers on TikTok in less than 1 year, what is his secret method of making engaging videos which drives in hundreds of thousands of views on his videos, and how a normal person who has a job can start content creation as a side hustle. So without further ado, I'm Jats, and this is the Inkspired Mind podcast. Alright guys, welcome to another episode of this podcast. And on today's podcast, I've got a person who came on the social media world just less than 2 years ago and has gained 1.5 million followers. And that is Gabriel. Thank you, Gabriel, for joining me on this podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Firstly, I just want to get started, but how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I've had a lot of monumental changes in my life in the past month. Got married.
Wow.
Got the ring,
Congrats.
got the bling. Moved house, and most importantly, I suppose, for the podcast, not in life, because obviously married is most important, is I quit my full-time corporate job at Barclays. I can now say I worked at Barclays because, at the time I couldn't say it. And I'm now a full-time content creator. What do you call me? I suppose that works.
Yeah, I mean,
TikToker.
Well, full-time content creator, definitely. So how's life after marriage? Because recently married as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can't complain yet. We're 3 weeks in and everything's plain, what's it called? Plain smooth sailing, all that kind of stuff. Honeymoon coming up, we're still putting the place together. So at the moment, we still like each other, which is good. Love each other.
Do you think you had to adjust a few things in your content world because now obviously you're not by yourself in your room as well?
That's true. But now I have other rooms in the place that I'm living, so I don't have to record in my bedroom anymore. No, to be honest, if anything, it's more useful because she's always helped me out. Like if you ever see a video of mine that clearly used a videographer, 9 out of 10 times, that's going to be her. So now I have her all the time around me. She's going to be my videographer a lot. I mean, she works, but she knows I'm going to rope her in.
Save some money there, right?
Yeah, rope her into the business, basically.
Perfect, thank you. And talking about Barclays, I want to come back to that later, but I just want to go all the way back in time to your school life, because I was having a look at your LinkedIn and I saw that you're a person who got 9 A stars and 2 A's in your GCSEs and 2 A stars and 2 A's in your A-level. So in your school life, have you always been a kid who's just the smart one?
Yeah, I was always a nerd.
Okay.
I always worked hard. I think my parents raised 3 children that always worked hard. My dad has a favorite line, which is he took the C's and the D's so that his kids could have the A's and the B's. I don't think it actually works like that, but you get the point. But yeah, school was always something I enjoyed. I suppose the results mean I was all right at it as well. I've always been all right at exams and things like that. So yeah, that kind of leads these results. And going back to the beginning point, I suppose I'm a bit of a nerd as well.
I mean, you got first at uni as well after that. But
that proves it.
I mean, your results and then the subjects you chose made sense why you go into Barclays and what you wanted to pursue. But then because you done physics, economics, further maths and maths, how did the world of content creation come in your life? Like, what inspired you to go from a complete opposite career? Like, you literally have the grades, you have the degree, you have the knowledge to choose any career you want, but then you just decided to, nope, I want to become a content creator. How did that come up?
I've never had that question asked before, so I probably have to do a bit of deep research into myself to figure that one out. I think I've probably during university age, my the YouTube and the content I was watching became less entertainment and more productivity, creating content, that kind of stuff, like the business side of YouTube. I think especially watching creators, I think we both know Ali Abdaal
Yep.
had a massive influence on kind of the content niche that I was watching. So it kind of just developed into a hobby of mine to kind of learn about it and understand it all the time. And then eventually it got to the point where I suppose I thought to myself, well, if I love consuming this content, wouldn't I love it so much more to create this content as well? So obviously it unlocks that more creative side that I clearly have a passion for, and that's a big interest of mine. But at the same time, what a lot of people probably don't know about content creation is creativity is actually a very small aspect of it. There's so many like research, logistics, systems, editing, all of that kind of stuff probably use a lot more of the analytical side of my brain, which is my background in maths and physics. So as much as I love creating and making a video and coming up with an idea, I also love the systems of how do I analyze this piece of content in the script to actually make it better? How in post-production and edit can I clip it to make it as good as possible? What are the actual numbers that are coming back from the views, the comments, that kind of stuff? What are they telling me about my content and how I can change it and all that kind of stuff? So I don't think it's a completely different path. It's just I'm using a lot of the strengths, hopefully, that I learned through like kind of the math side of me, the engineering degree, and put it into practice.
I think that really made sense. And I think as you spoke about systems and maths and analytics, because as a content creator, one thing you have to pay attention to is your analytics. And I want to come back to all this kind of how you approach content creation and everything. But just before that, how did your parents react to you wanting to become a full-time content creator and leave your job?
Not great. No, my parents are supportive, but I think they'd probably be like most parents are like for people our age, in that content creation was never a career until about 10 years ago, maybe. And even then, we're talking maybe the last 5 years.
I think last 5 years,
people have been able to essentially do it as a full-time job. So I think that they saw that it was doing well. They've always been supportive of it, as when I was doing it as a bit of a side hustle, as a hobby, all that kind of stuff. My mum always loves sharing and listening to all the stuff that I'm putting out there. Grandparents the same, etc. But I kind of set it up early. So when I saw it was doing well, let's say about a year ago, I already had in my head that I was going full time. So I was constantly letting them know, in like a year from now, like I'm going full time into this. And they was like, yeah, sure. And then I suppose I'm old enough that they trust me. They hope that I know what I'm doing. It's a completely different industry to one that they've ever known or understood. But at the same time, like they can see that obviously it has a healthy income to it. Not so, I suppose, like sustainable or what's the word?
It's not consistent.
But it can be if you put in the right processes and methods into it. And so, I think they trust me, and my dad likes to see kind of the results from it, and he'll always be like, how are you doing? Is it going well? Is like everything okay from like your safety net point of view? But aside from that, I think I've grown up with parents that just want me to be happy and do things that I enjoy, and they see that I'm enjoying this. So they're always happy for me to continue going down this path.
Makes sense. And talking about that one thing there, which was consistency, obviously as a content creator, it's not like a job where you're going to get paid every month or so. So how have you kind of, when you decided to become a full-time content creator, what was your mindset, and how did you overcome that? Be like, okay, look, I'm not going to get consistent income, but I just have to go for it. Like, what was your thought process with that? Yeah,
so from the money point of view, I think that one thing I could say is in the year that I was doing TikTok and Barclays at the same time, I earned more money from TikTok than I did from Barclays. So I know a lot of people that go full time into kind of their passions and into being a bit more like entrepreneurial don't have that kind of starting point. I was very fortunate to the point where I even said to myself, if I earn nothing over 1 year as a full-time content creator, which is basically impossible because obviously I had things set up before I went full time, I said that would still be fine because I've basically earned another salary last year that covers me. So that was definitely one way of thinking about it. The second way for sure is that I kind of had foresight over deals coming in and I got a feel for it. And then that matched with the point where I thought to myself, if I'm doing this on the side, working a full-time job and still being paid more than I'm currently being paid at Barclays, how can it be worse putting even more time and more effort into it? If anything, I'm expecting it to grow exponentially as I put more time and effort into this. And hopefully alongside this, obviously TikTok is my main platform and short form content creation, but the plan going full time is that I can go into different revenue streams and try different things out. So I'm hoping in a year from now, it'll be a lot more stable. We'll have more consistent revenue and I'll have other revenue sources. But those were definitely the reasons why for me, it wasn't really a concern or a worry going full time into it.
That makes sense. And I think not many people have the balls, I would say, to just make a decision be like full time. Because the thing I realized, even when I made the decision that, okay, I'm going to leave my job and I'm going to pursue content creation and just make content and make money off that, it wasn't an easy decision. And a lot of people think that being a content creator just means it's a fun life. They don't look at how much work goes behind the scenes, this and that. So that's definitely one thing. Now, there are many people out there who, just like yourself, have a job and they're making content. They want to start content creation. So how did you balance both the job and the content?
So I'd say firstly, I got quite lucky with timing because I started in the pandemic when I think a lot of us started.
Yes.
Things like lockdowns, not being able to see your friends meant that everyone just had naturally a lot more time on their hands. But then the second thing to say to that, even as a result, was you could still probably go out and see 6 people or whatever it was in a park. So it wasn't like that wasn't an option for me. It's just if you want to take this seriously and go consistently into it, you're going to have to sacrifice a lot of your time. It's a non-negotiable. So you're working 9 to 5. You do some things side of desk, obviously, out the day if you want to like work like that way. But then you have to dedicate your evenings and your weekends to it. It doesn't mean that you can't have a life. I mean, I had my wife at the point was my girlfriend. So obviously I had to dedicate time because it's a relationship that you're trying to build at the same time. So that was definitely one thing that I prioritized even over my content because that was more important to me than my content. But aside from that, weekends, evenings, just long editing hours, I just dedicated a lot of time to it. And I don't think there's any special secret. There's no hack to how to do it. I mean, you're welcome to go straight in and hire an editor and save a bunch of your time, but then you're probably not making money. So how can you spend the money just yet? But if you're like the average person, or if you're like me, it's quite simple. Find those hours after work, 5 until 10 p.m, minus an hour for dinner or to go to the gym, and dedicate that to your passion if that's what you want to go full time into in the future. There's no other way of doing it.
I think this is the only career there is no TikTok life hack to, or there's
no TikTok life hack.
No TikTok life hack for this. And yes, I cannot agree more with it because I feel like the amount of sacrifices I had to go through just to get to here as well. It's like I couldn't spend time with my friends most of the days. I couldn't spend time with my family most of the days. I think it's all worth it at the end of the day as well. So I guess each and everything is definitely worth it. Now, going back to your Barclays time, because it's kind of the 9 to 5 world and the corporate world, what's the biggest difference between working for someone else and working for yourself?
Oof, where do I start?
Because most people will think that working for Barclays is worse than working for yourself. But if you think realistically, you might be like, sometimes it's better to work for someone else.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's definitely pros and cons. But like you said, people think that working for yourself means that you don't have a boss.
Yes.
Oh, you have bosses.
But that's the problem, isn't it?
So if you work with a client or you want to make a sponsored deal, which is how I make most of my money at this point, they are essentially my boss. Yeah. They tell me when they need the deadline for. They tell me whether they like the content or not. They approve the scripts. They set the time schedule. They pay me. Yeah. That's like having a boss. So they say that once you go full time, you have more bosses than you've ever had because all of your clients become your boss. Other differences are, let's say I'm my own boss. I think I'm a lot harsher on myself than my Barclays bosses were.
Yes.
They're a lot more chilled. It's get your work done, especially when you're working from home. It's a bit more flexible. You can do what you want. When you are your own boss working on your own projects that you know are quite literally the time you put in is the results you get out, you're thinking to yourself, like it's 7 o'clock at night. Do I sit down and watch TV like I could do if I had a full-time job? Or do I edit that thing that needs to go out for tomorrow? And you got to make the decision that from 7 till 8 or till 9 or till 10, you got to go and do some more work.
Yeah.
You never switch off. You're always thinking about work. You've always got something to do. When you're working in the corporate world, it's come in at 9. You're done at, well, in the majority, I know there's other jobs and there's context and all that kind of stuff. But for a lot of jobs, you come in at 9 and at 5 o'clock, you pack your bag and you're out. You're done.
Yeah.
Not when you're working for yourself.
And that's like one of the biggest problems. Like when you work for yourself, when you don't have a boss, the amount of self-discipline you need in order to make sure you get your work done every single day is incredible. And this 9-to-5 world has kind of like a bad name to it. What's your take on it? Like, do you think 9-to-5 is actually just trash and you should not pursue that, or you should just go to your living your passions straight?
I mean, obviously living your passion sounds amazing, but some people are sitting there going, I don't know what I want to do, or my passions don't involve earning money or being a job. So I think that, especially throughout lockdown, if you were on TikTok or if you're on social media a lot, the whole entrepreneurial mindset, like be your own boss, sort of find your own job, you can earn so much money and like have all that freedom and flexibility and travel the world. That kind of propaganda came out a lot and was being pushed a lot on those websites. Whereas some people are probably sitting there being like, I like my job, I get paid well, and I don't have to take it home with me. What's there like, and I get my holiday days and I know when I'm working and I'm not working and I know how to switch off. So I think the 9-to-5 is absolutely perfect. There are some people that I spoke to at work that their dreams and their passions was about climbing the career ladder in the profession that they wanted to excel in. So 100% that it's for two different kinds of people. Some people are, all they've ever wanted to do was to be their own boss and to create their own thing. And that's definitely the route for them. But for a lot of people that maybe even want to climb the ladder or don't even want to climb the ladder, they just want to work. They want to get paid. They want to do something they like, or they want to socialize with people at work and then they want to go home. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just obviously not the mindset that I've taken on. But obviously I have to be mindful enough to know that that's one way of thinking and there's so many other ways as well.
Yeah, that's true, because everyone likes what they like. And I think one thing about 9-to-5 is that most people want to live their dream life, but before that, you need to get a job. No matter what you say, you need a job in order to first at least have some type of cash flow, so then you can invest into your passion projects or whatever you have.
100%.
And so now I'm going to go to our TikTok world, because you joined on TikTok while I was already on TikTok, and I didn't have that many followers. You just came on and bang. Literally, you went from 0 to 1 million in like a less than a year or year or so. And so I just want to know your thought process of making content. Like, how do you, even before you script a content, how do you even come up with an idea?
I feel like I should like prefix, I can't even think of the word, by saying that I mentioned this off camera to you, but Jats was the first person I saw do the style of video that I did back and forth. This guy right here. And I saw it and I was like, this guy is doing my niche and he's made a sick video and it's popping off. I wonder if that style would work for me. So I spoke to myself back and forth. My first video popped off, went wild. And I was like, thank you, Jats. Thank you, Jats. We didn't know each other then. We just knew each other online. So that's the first thing to say, how I create my style. But how I come up with my video ideas, I suppose at some point it just became a natural habit because I've been making videos for, I don't know, 1.5 years now on TikTok, and it's just constantly keeps turning over. But there's a range of ways that I do it, either through just kind of current affairs, looking at what's going on in the news that is relevant to what I'm talking about, looking at other content creators. There's a great book that I can't think of who writes it, called like The Art of Stealing.
Steal Like an Artist.
Steal Like an Artist. Is it right there?
Yeah. That
Austin Kleon. I knew it. It's on the top of my head. And it's all about kind of like looking at other people's content and saying that nothing is unique. Or
exactly.
No one's kind of come up with the idea. So let's say, for example, I'm making a video about income tax and I've seen someone else make a video about income tax. Not a great topic, but I've seen someone else that are like, oh, I need to make a video about income tax. They would think you didn't come up with income tax. Yeah. It's a very standard concept because obviously we're teaching educational topics. So everything already exists out there offline. So that's a great way. If you look at kind of the people in your niche that are doing what you're doing, see what they're doing, see how they're doing it, and be like, well, how can I make that me? How can I make my own unique spin on that? And how can I share maybe a bit of information in that they've left out? So it's not copying, it's using
Stealing like an
their
artist,
concepts
basically.
and creating concepts off that, stealing like an artist, exactly. Read the book before you start hating in the comments, being like, he's copied all his video ideas.
No. I think that book definitely helped me as well.
Massive, isn't it?
Yes.
And then what else do I do? I suppose just my background in finance. A lot of my content is finance orientated, so that's how I do it. I consume a lot of that content like myself. So if someone says a point, like a lot of the times now, just because this is how I am, I'm switched on. If I'm watching something or if I think of an idea, straight to my phone, there's a video idea sorted.
Okay.
And then slowly, once I worked on my niche for a very long time. And then once I grew to a certain point, I think I gave myself the right to expand into different niches.
Okay.
And that opens up a lot more doors to other styles of content that you can be making on. And then I suppose one thing that I could say is that now I've gone full time. A lot of my plan, a lot of the reason for that was so that I could like experiment with different styles of content. So that allows you basically to use the same topic and try and make a video in it in 4 different ways.
Yeah.
And then there's 4 content ideas. They're the same concept, but you're trying to do it in different ways. So yeah, a bunch of those ways. And then I suppose, like I said right at the beginning, is that now it's just become a bit of a habit. So I can kind of think to myself, if I sat down in a dark room for an hour, I'm sure I could whip out 60 ideas or something like that.
I think that's a really good way to put it. But sometimes creative blocks is a big thing. Have you ever had those where like you're just going through a phase where you're just trying to think, but it just doesn't happen? So do you have kind of a workflow where you're like, okay, one day I'm going to sit down just for ideas. Next day I'm just going to sit down for scripting. How do you approach that?
Yeah, so that definitely goes back to like we've spoke before about my engineering and like the structure. So when you're creating content, you have to be efficient with your time.
Yeah.
And being efficient with your time means that it takes time to set up your camera and to hit record and to get everything right and angles and stuff like that. So when it's a recording day, it's a recording day. When it's a scripting day, it's a scripting day. When it's a researching day, it's a researching day. And you try and like knock out as many of those in a go. When I say day, it could be like a morning for research and then an afternoon for scripting. But then in terms of block, I don't think I've had a block. I think I've lost inspiration sometimes in styles of content. So like the back and forth, I was doing it for so long that I was like, am I just stuck in a rut now where I think this is what people want me to be doing, so that's all I'm doing? Or can I be flexible and actually make this more enjoyable? And I think that reflection allowed me to start shifting my style a little bit, trying out different unique things that can change the way that I film videos. And that basically released a lot more ideas and made it a lot more enjoyable again and changed things up. So I think especially it's quite a lonely career being a content creator. I mean, I know you got some guys behind the scene, but at the moment I'm working full time on my own. So in order to kind of keep things fresh and make sure that I'm not getting bored, I have to change things up every so often. And I suppose quitting a job, that's quite a big shake up. So that's kept things 100%. Interesting.
And I think there's an important thing you just mentioned there, which is that you were creating the same type of content. So sometimes you lose inspiration. Do you think that's mainly due to the fact that now you are a full-time content creator, but before it's also the fact that if you don't get views on your videos, brands don't want to work with you as well. So sometimes do you get into this loop of creating content for the sake of views or because you want to create that content?
I've definitely gone through that phase where I was creating content purely for the views. I was like, this works, it's good. I'm just going to jump on and stay on this style for now. That was definitely a phase I went through. I think I'm less like that now. To me, TikTok was my main platform where I blew up and where I grew. And so I wanted it to be perfect. I was like, this is like my CV. Like I need it to be amazing. I need every piece of content to be spot on. And that meant I couldn't change my style. I couldn't try out new things. So that definitely happened for a while where I was focused on views. Now I'm in a fortunate position where obviously I've grown to a big follower base and a lot of my videos do well because obviously people are interested in what I'm doing. I'm not so concerned about if one flops or something like that. I just know it's the game now. You create content and you don't decide whether it does well or badly. I created a video the other day that took me 2 minutes. It got like 150, 200,000 views. I created another video the next day that took me 2 hours. It got 15,000 views. Yeah. It's just the game that we're in, isn't it? So I'm now at a point where I don't really concern myself with views, especially on TikTok. And I'm trying to change my mindset to especially make that TikTok platform an experimental one which is a lot more rough, dirty, has mistakes. Just I can do whatever on there because it's like a personal blog to me now.
Yeah.
Not a blog in terms of like I'm telling people about my life, but a blog in terms of like I can throw anything that I want to throw out on there and see if it sticks and then work from that angle, which I think is a much healthier way to create. There are some platforms that you should keep clean. I think if I went into YouTube, for example, long form, I'd want that to be a dedicated, researched, good thumbnails, looking clean, looking good. But what I'm doing right now focuses on short form, and especially on TikTok, that is becoming a much more full of mistakes and creative outlets and things like that, which I think is better for me.
And TikTok is a weird platform. It's like some
strange platform.
Some videos you're gonna have thousands, hundreds of thousands or millions of views, and then the next video you're just suddenly gonna have like 10,000 views. And I think it's good and bad, the platform, because you are building an audience. It's bad because you have, let's say, an audience of 1 million followers. But if your video is crap, it's still not going to matter. That's one thing which I realized. It's like, as much as you want to love TikTok, you hate TikTok as well at the same time. Because if you, let's say, had 1 million subscribers on YouTube, even for your shorts, they will see it at least. And then it depends.
It's recommended, doesn't it?
It gets recommended at least. For us, it's like, if the video doesn't get average view duration on TikTok, it's not being shown to anyone.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
the best and the worst part about TikTok, isn't it?
Yeah.
Without that, we couldn't have grown.
Yeah.
Because it's all content first. It's not creator first. So
have you seen a major switch or like shift in TikTok compared to what we used to do before? Have you noticed anything different?
I think that it's definitely harder to get the views that I think we used to get.
Yeah.
But that might have just been because we were early adopters of a certain style that was doing well, and trends happen and algorithms change and things like that. So I think just at that point in time, our trend was on point and the algorithm was working heavily in our favor of the style of content we were making. Nowadays, it is definitely a much more difficult platform to create that viral piece of content on. Yeah. I say much more, I'm saying much more compared to a year ago, but I'm not saying difficult full stop. I don't think it's a difficult platform to go viral on. It's still like in its complete infancy stages. So especially for those people that are thinking, oh no, if Gabriel and Jats are saying that it's harder now to create on it, I should just give up now. Like how old's TikTok? 5 years old? Probably less.
Yeah.
So I think YouTube is
10, more than 10 years.
Almost 20 years old.
20 years, yeah.
And people are still blowing up on that. Yeah. So TikTok is young. It's definitely still the right time to be on there at the moment.
And I think with TikTok as well is that even right now, you do a conversation style video, you will still get views. It's just that you won't get that amount of views. I've experimented even till date. Whenever I post a conversation style compared to a normal style, like any different style, I will get less views in the non-conversation style video. And then that is the time when I go back to this a mindset of like, do I want to not create conversation style video because I'm not getting views if I don't create one. So I have to do this. And then I'm trying to balance between not posting videos for views and post videos because I want to, but then it's so difficult at the same time. So I fall in that kind of loop myself as well. And when you were talking about your system for creating videos, what is your exact system? Like let's talk about your scripting. So within your scripts, what do you look for? How do you make your videos so engaging?
I think as I've developed through TikTok, I've kind of picked up on little things here and there. But I would say the first thing with TikTok is it's a short and snappy platform.
Yeah.
They say you have on YouTube, you've got 5 seconds to hook someone.
Yeah.
On TikTok, it's probably half a second to hook someone. So the first thing is always that catchy intro, that catchy first line, something that would basically make someone hesitate to swipe up and move on to the next piece of content. The next thing is keeping it just concise and short. I'll always read over my script and analyze it, not from what I'm saying it, but how I'm saying it. I always look to say, okay, I'm saying that in 10 words. Can I say it in 9 words? What word here is not relevant? So that's a big aspect of when I'm scripting. Then, of course, you want to leave a little bit of juice towards the end of the video.
Yeah.
You don't want to give it all away early on. That's a big part. And then other thing I was experimenting with, I think we always used to end our videos telling people to follow us. But there's this kind of trend that I've seen with other creators where they're saying maybe push that earlier on in your video because your highest drop-off rate is going to be at the end of your video. So why are you telling people to follow you when the least amount of people are still watching? Why not push that to the beginning? So I'm trying to think of a smart way to put that in early on. So yeah, those are kind of some good key things that I look out for in my scripts. Obviously, there's a lot more. It's got to be a good topic. It's got to be still entertaining. So I've got to make sure that the way that I'm structuring it is entertaining. I try and keep it below 30 seconds, even around 20 seconds if I can. And I'm sure there's a bunch more things that I do without even thinking about it, but those are just off the tip of my tongue.
It's just a subconscious habit now.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
You. And once the script is done, do you do kind of rehearsals for how you're gonna say the script? Because when you're trying to do this skit/meme type way of doing like conversation, do you just go and just talk to the camera, or you try and first rehearsal the line?
I think the first rehearsal is when I'm writing it. So I write it like I'm saying it. And then what I'll normally do is once the script's written, there's not a rehearsal. Like I'll hit play before I say my first line on the camera, but I'll say it I'll say it and then I'll think to myself, I could say it in a few different ways. And then in post editing, you can pick the style. But to be honest, there's normally only one good take at the end of it anyway, where I've said all the lines smoothly. So I don't have a choice. But it's that's also normally the last take.
Yeah.
So I probably would say each line that you'll see in my TikToks have probably been said about 4 or 5 times, and the first 4 have been deleted, and you've got the 5th version. But that tone of voice, the structure, the way you're saying it, the speed you're saying it at isn't rehearsed like in practice. It's just I've done it a few ways in front of the camera until I'm happy with how I do it and I move on.
Makes sense. And in terms of going from the whole stage of scripting to recording, editing, how long does I would say a proper good video which you're making, how long does it take you?
I would say, not that I'm recommending that you go from scripting to editing in one go. Remember, we batch, so we do all the scripting in one go on loads of videos. But if we were going to go from one start to the end of one video, maybe an hour and a half-ish on average. I mean, I could break that down for you and say that 5 to 10 minutes researching, 15 minutes scripting, maybe 20 minutes. Recording is probably the quickest part, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then editing, half an hour. I know that probably didn't add up to an hour and a half, but that's just on average. It can vary depending on the length of the video, the difficulty and the information.
Yeah.
Also, some edits, you want to get pictures and images. So I do a lot of technology videos now sometimes. So if I want to talk about an Apple product, I need to find the image, crop it out on Photoshop and get it in. Yeah. That doubles the time of the edit on its own.
Makes sense.
So yeah, that's on average. But like I said, a video that took me 5 minutes to make can go viral, and one that took me 10 hours to make might absolutely flop. So it's always, regardless of how long it takes, you post everything.
I cannot agree more with it, because sometimes I've thought that this video is crap and then I post it and it does much more better than I thought. And there was a part you said about batching. I think most people don't understand the importance of batching as a content creator, because it allows you to be so much consistent. So if you could just share with people, like how you batch your content, like what's your process? You do it on Monday and then post just throughout the whole week. Is that how you manage to spend more time with your kind of loved ones, your wife as well now?
For sure, batching has allowed me in the earlier stages as well to be more consistent when I was working a full-time job. I think at the moment I'm now working out my full-time processes, so it's a little bit different. But I think it's like a golden rule.
Yeah.
Never just make one video from start to finish. It's the least efficient way of spending your time. When you're in the mindset of researching, you can find 5 videos in, like, let's say the same time as it would take you to, I don't know, find 2 videos, but spaced out over 2 days. If that makes sense. If you're comparing the time, you go in one go and you just keep it going. I think it's all about, there's this concept called flow.
Flow state.
Flow state, exactly. And you can't get into a flow state if you're changing your task or you're changing what you're doing. So what that means is, if you're sitting down and you're researching, put a timer down against yourself, 25 minutes, let's say, and so you can have a break soon. And for those 25 minutes, do nothing but research. And you will find that 25 minutes flies past. Otherwise, let's say you find your video in 5 minutes, and let's say you found your topic, you then have to stop, change your mindset. Think, okay, now I need to go into a scripting mindset and I need to look into some other scripts that I've written already to see the style. And it's just changing tasks like takes so much time away from what you're doing that if you spend 2 hours scripting, 2 hours filming, 2 hours or more like 10 hours editing, you'll just find yourself creating much larger quantities of content. So especially let's say you're someone doing this on the side of desk or side hustles. If you're not batch recording, you're wasting so much time.
Yeah. And I think, sorry for that, I think in the start, because when you have other stuff going on, like you had your full-time job, I think along with a full-time job, this can help you a lot to just kind of, that on Monday, you're going to record all of it and then for the whole week you had. But do you think batching reduces your quality sometimes? I don't know if that, it's a hard one because sometimes I used to think that, am I batching because I'm lazy? Am I batching because I am not able to think? But do you feel that? And sometimes do you think you miss an opportunity because you've batched your content already and there is a certain topic which has just come up? You want to create that piece of content, but because now you create high quality content and not from your mobile phone, do you think it has a problem with it?
It can have that problem, but I do always leave myself agile enough that if something comes up quickly, I'm not like so set in my routines that I won't go and make a video about that. So let's say I've got my batching routine, but the Apple September announcement was on a Thursday, but Thursday isn't the day to write scripts and do researching. I'm like, it's fine. That thing's happening on Thursday. I'll just dedicate my time towards that on Thursday. So it's not like you can't make a one-off video here and there. It's just the bulk of the majority of what you need to do has or should really be batching. I don't really find it lowers my quality because let's say I think of something in hindsight, I can always make that amend in the script when let's say I'm about to start filming, but I'm like, oh, that script isn't so smooth anymore. Like, it's not to say that you can't then like touch things up and do things on different days. Of course you can do what you want. You're doing it for yourself. No one else really is worried about that kind of stuff. So you basically have to have that mindset as well. And you mentioned about becoming lazy. Like, are you lazy if you're batching? I think it might have been like Einstein or someone, but I could get this completely wrong, that said like being lazy is one of the best gifts. You're finding the quickest ways to do tasks. Yes. Lazy people are some of the most creative people as well because they're just...
I don't know if it was Steve Jobs or Einstein, but one of them, yes.
Someone big.
Yeah, it was some. But yes, I think...
Someone who's not on TikTok.
Yes, 100%.
Said something, be lazy.
Yep.
And if being lazy means that you're getting your stuff done in quicker time periods, then 100%. I mean, unless you absolutely adore the process of scripting and you want to spend all of your days scripting, but then maybe being a full-time content creator isn't right for you. You should become a scripter for a content creator if that's your passion. I think what we find is that our passion is all the aspects. We love every aspect from researching to hitting publish to after publish as well. So what I would say is be lazy, find methods that make you do it quickly. And that is the best way to live a good and fun life because you'll save a lot of time to do things outside of work.
Can I agree more with it? And I think when you look for the lazy ways, you can put out more content and it's all about quantity sometimes. Yes, it's quality as well, but if you can put out a lot of quantity on TikTok especially, there are more chances you're going to blow up a lot quicker as well. And with TikTok, what was your reaction when you hit 1 million followers in like almost a year or less than a year you hit in?
Yeah, it was quick. I think it was like 6 months.
Did you expect it when you started?
No, I did not expect it when I started. I started on YouTube before TikTok and it was a hobby. I say this a lot to people, but it has to start as a hobby.
As a hobby.
If you start it hoping to grow and become a business and make loads of money,
it doesn't work.
Nah, it will not work. So definitely didn't expect it. And then from the numbers point of view aspect, like the numbers were like, for me, I try to ground myself a little bit in that if a video's got 10,000 views and I'm like, oh, but normally I'm getting 150,000 views. I still have to think that like a year ago, getting 10,000 views on a video is nuts. 10,000 people have watched a video that I put out there. So that's always important for me to remind myself. And then also by the point of hitting 1 million, I think that a lot of creators struggle with the numbers. It's a very difficult side because sometimes the numbers are up, sometimes they're down, sometimes your followers are like growing massively. I was at a point where I literally was growing like 30,000 followers in a day. I think I've done, if not more. And there are now days where I'm losing followers some days because that's just the chop and change of being at the kind of the level that you're at. So I've tried to disassociate any of kind of like my joy or my results
Happiness.
or my attitude to the numbers. I just enjoy the process and the creating content. I look at the numbers, don't get me wrong. You have to look at the numbers because you need to know what's going on and what's doing well. But hitting 1 million was a milestone in that, like, it was a cool goal. It was like unbelievable. Never thought it would happen. Celebrated with my friends. Someone gave me a glass of whiskey and I necked it, or a bottle even at that point. So it was an incredible moment in my life. But that's all these things are. Once you hit a goal, you're like, cool. Like, that didn't actually, like, what's changed? And let's say you're always striding for that next number, nothing will satisfy you. So if you're like, oh, I've hit 1 million, but now I need to hit 2 million, or now I need to hit 5 million, like, it's always going to be that uphill battle and you're never going to be able to kind of achieve things. So kind of I take my happiness and my achievement from just putting out another video. That was a good content piece. I enjoyed making that. Or
that's a really good way to
that was a good script. Or wow, I tried something different style and like that video was really cool. Okay, it didn't do well, but like I enjoyed it. So I know it's hard to do it because the majority of content creators are probably like, the numbers do affect them. And I'm not going to lie, the numbers have affected me before and probably still will affect me. But I try to make that like disassociation between the two.
And I think it's important that you set goals which are under your control and not something which are externally controlled, like views, for example. We can make the best piece of content ourselves, but we can't control how many views we can get on that video. So that's a really great way to think. And any aspiring content creators out there watching, I think what Gabriel has just mentioned here is a really important part of content creation. And one thing you mentioned, which was that you have to look at your numbers. You also have to look at your comments. And some comments aren't the best, because as a content creator, yes, you have thousands of good comments, but then you also have few negative comments, and they sometimes get you. So as a content creator, how do you kind of block them out, or how do you avoid them? Do they affect you?
They don't. And I do understand how they can affect people, because I've seen some of them, and sometimes they're proper harsh. But I think I've set a good mindset from early on. I mean, I suppose if you take your inspiration from that guy over there, Gary V, there on the wall, he says that, like, doesn't he say that he loves his haters? Because like, he's like, if they're writing that piece of comment on me, like, think about the trouble that like they must be having in their life, and like the pain that they must be going through, that like it was worth their time to watch your content and then write something negative and then actually hit post. Because I think to myself personally, I can never write a hateful comment, I don't think, on a piece of content. I don't even know how you could do it.
It's like, even if I see a piece of content which I don't like, I don't even get the thought that I'm going to go in the comment section and I'm going to write, oh, your content is shit or anything. It doesn't even happen. I don't know how people just decide to do that.
And that's why you have to just remind yourself that if someone's doing that, like, there's clearly something that's like a little bit sad or upsetting, or like there just basically must be something that's not great going on for them to actually go and do that, especially if you think to yourself that you could never go and do that. So that's the first thing that I bear in mind. The second thing is, like, you have to read the positive. There's so many more positives than there are negatives, but like, as human beings, we just weigh ourselves on the negatives. We see one negative amongst a sea of positive comments, and we're like, oh, that's the one that matters. Yeah. It's like, why is that the one that matters? That person probably didn't even watch the video and they've just written it for the sake of writing it. And then the last one is that sometimes they're quite funny.
Sometimes they're quite funny.
And if they're funny, I normally will like respond and be like, that's actually quite a piece of
content for you.
That's good. I like it. Like, people are like saying that I look like certain people online. I don't know if that's a hate comment, but it probably kind of is. And I'm like, you know what? They've got a point. I do kind of look like Wallace from Wallace and Gromit.
And I think if you can take criticism in a way that you make fun of yourself, then I guess it's the best thing you can do, and it's a good way for you to just have a laugh at it as well. Yeah,
and like sometimes the bad ones, the worst is like when you get an Insta DM, someone's literally gone onto your profile and wanted to privately message you to be like, mate, stop posting content, like your content is not worth it, like just stop what you're doing. So I always reply to them being like, thank you for the feedback, or like a thumbs up, or just something to be like, I'm not going to send them, well, I'm going to fight back with some random person on the internet.
When you reply that, you're hurting them even more.
I've had that. I've had people apologize. They've written a bad comment and I've replied to their DM being like, thank you so much for your feedback, or shame you think like that. And they've like written back, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't think you'd actually read it. I actually love your content. And I was just didn't meet like, and I'm like, whatever, man.
Yeah.
It's what it is.
And so hate comments and everything kind of affect your mental health. So as a content creator, is there a process, or like, is it going to the gym or going for a walk for you to just take care of your mental health? Because I'm a big advocate about mental health, because whenever I go through something, I always like to speak to my friends or my team, but like, look, today I just can't. I'm drained as hell. Like burnouts, sometimes when I have burnouts, I don't like doing anything. And I'm sure as a content creator, you face burnouts every now and then.
Yeah.
Or if you do.
I mean, we work so hard, especially as full-time content creators, that I think we're a bit too harsh on ourselves sometimes. Like, you can just have a day off. Like, lie in bed all day, sit in front of the TV. Like, just, like, it's not, as long as that's not what you're doing every day. If that's what you need, go for a walk all day, go out, go on holiday. Like, do things that can take your mind off it, because we can't stay switched on for this long. I don't think humans are built to be constantly working and stressed, and you need that like kind of relaxation and recovery for sure. So yeah, prioritizing going to the gym is a big one for me, especially like over the past few months. Like I have prioritized going to the gym over making sure that I'm getting a certain number of pieces of content out. Spending time with loved ones. Like I will always prioritize spending time with like my now wife over any piece of content. Like if we have like a date or something like that, like that's it. When we're going out, I'm done. And it's not like I'll be like, oh, I can't do it today because like I have to do that piece of content. Yeah. If it's a sponsor or something else, then we know it's different and we try and organize around that. But that's always important. And I think like the first time I properly experienced this was when I went on holiday like January this year. So the beginning of this year was my first kind of break from TikTok. In fact, it was actually earlier than that. It was June. So I was on my way to 1 million and it was growing rapidly. And I went on a week holiday and I hadn't created content for that week. And at that point I was posting like 6 times a week. And I was a little bit like stressed. I was like, I'm just going to disappear offline. Like, will this ruin everything? All the hard work? Is it going to go to zero? Obviously, it never did. I went on a holiday. I enjoyed myself. I came back. Everything was still there. I posted the next video. It did all right. And we got on again and we got moving. And I think that was quite important because at the time I was very stressed about it. But I needed to go through that experience to understand that like you can step away from this world. Obviously, consistency is the most important thing when it comes to content creation. You need to be present online as much as you can and as consistently as you can with a good quality. But taking those breaks and just stepping away, nothing's going to happen. They're not going anywhere. Those profiles aren't disappearing. So yeah.
One thing I've learned from yourself and others who I've spoken to is taking intentional breaks. It's like as content creators or as entrepreneurs, I would say, we always want to keep working. But eventually there will come a point where you will burn out. So rather take intentional breaks, keep recovering yourself, and you will last longer as well in this entire game. And I'm sure you didn't grow up, sorry for that, my throat is bad by the way, guys. I'm sure you didn't grow up with this great mindset. So what's helped you throughout these years? Was it like through books, podcasts to kind of maintain or gain this entrepreneurial / better mindset, I would say?
I definitely read a lot. Books are a big help, but I think when I started going into this kind of world of content creation, I started to read a lot of that more self-development. You kind of got them up on the shelf there, a lot of the ones that I've read. And obviously they're very good and they've helped me a lot mentally, to be honest. But at the end of the day, they are just books. You have to take from them what you will. A lot of the time, I saw a video the other day that was quite true. It was someone finishing a book and then someone up to him, so what was that book about? And you're like, what was it about?
What was it about? Like you asked me in one of them, what was in that book? What was in that book?
I've literally just finished it today and I have no idea. But they are still, in a way, they've helped me kind of clarify. And then I think something else that's been very important is kind of the core like friends and family that I have around me. I've got a very supportive family, a very close, tight-knit family that have kind of always supported everything that I've done. And then friendship group wise as well, my mates, my wife, everyone like that has always been like pushing me from the start, like from the awkward videos when I was talking on my iPhone, like making videos that were of rubbish quality, and I was pretty much talking shit throughout the entire video. Like they were still supporting and liking. Like I had a mate that was just like, yeah, I've left it on loop on the background of my computer so you can get views. And those are the kind of things that like are very important. I mean, obviously in public, like they ridicule me and they're like, you're talking to yourself on camera again. Like literally like my best man's wedding speech just took the piss out of my TikTok.
I mean, it's probably because you're probably content creator. All of them probably had a mad wedding speech as well.
Yeah, they love it. I mean, like obviously I've given them ammo for the rest of their lives. Like they always have something on me. But like when it comes to like being deep with me, they're like always supporting and things like that, which I think is massively important as well. Especially from the start when nobody's watching.
Yeah.
And that's like, obviously now it's easy for me because I'm like, if someone makes fun of me, I'm like, but like I'm doing well. So what's the, like, I'm not concerned.
And I think in the start, it's great to have people surrounded you who are supporting you, because it's never easy.
You need it.
In the start, you need it the most. And what's worse is that in the start, there is no one. Like when you need them the most is the time when they are not there. And when you don't need them are the time they are there for you.
100%.
So it's a weird one. And one thing which you mentioned about the books, recently I saw Jay Shetty's video. I'm sure you know who Jay Shetty is. And someone asked him a question that, how can you remember everything you read? And he's like, you can't remember everything you read, but if you can apply one thing from that book to your real life, then that's the best thing you can do. Because if you read 10 books, you're applying 10 new things to your life. So I think that's one thing I wanted to add there as well. And now you're a full-time creator, content creator. So like, what is the plan? What is the plan for you moving forward?
You tell me, man. I've got no idea. I jumped in with 2 feet and I realized I don't have a life jacket on. So I'm like, help, I can't swim. The plan is, firstly, I mentioned it earlier on, but the ability to be more creative with my short form content. So short form content is what I do. It's what I do well, and it's what
that the kind of form of content you just want to push more?
No, I think that's just one of a few angles. So my focus this year is content. It's content. So one like leg of that, or one pillar of that, is short form content. Higher quantity, higher quality, different styles, testing things out, just being a bit more creative and like making sure that I stay in love with the process, because this is basically the point where I'll find out whether I want to do this full time for the rest of my life, or whether this isn't for me and I want to go back into a different career. But then my main thing that I want to happen this year is long form YouTube. It's what I started out with before TikTok. I did it for 6 months prior. It's what I loved consuming back in the day during university. So that's kind of the project I want to get back involved with. It was a much more time consuming project than TikTok and short form content has been. And now hopefully I have that time back in my life where I can start creating on that platform again, because TikTok's amazing. Don't get me wrong. I love making the scripts, but a lot of the times when you're trying to give useful information or motivation or personal development, things like that, you have to cut it down to 20 seconds. And you know that like the majority of people are going to watch it as entertainment, but are never going to retain it. Whereas within those 10 minutes on YouTube, let's say, that you can make a video about, you can get all your points across. You can really get people to understand what you're trying to share information-wise with them. And you can build that community. Whereas TikTok struggles with the aspect of community. Like you said, you post a video, you have 1 million followers, but you get 5,000 views. So that's the long-term plan. And then, like I said, just developing my other platforms, places like Instagram, places like LinkedIn. I want to go a little bit more into that platform, because I think we're both educational creators, and LinkedIn is an up-and-coming platform for people that want to be in education. It's not just for putting your CV on.
That's one platform I've never looked into, because I always feel like, I don't know what I'll post, but I think from the aspect of educational content, it does really make sense as well.
For sure.
And I think because you already have a platform where you have got a good amount of following, it will be definitely easier for you to diversify into YouTube and other platforms as well. And so I think one important thing is that most people want to start with all platforms at the same time, which is not the best idea, because I've tried that and it was definitely harder. When you gain a following on one platform, it's easier to diversify that audience onto that. So I have managed to get 100K on YouTube, mainly, I would say 50% because in the start, I had TikTok where I used to cross-promote every YouTube video I uploaded. But now I never promote it on TikTok. And I still, because I have learned how the algorithm of YouTube works, I can organically grow as well. And that's helped a lot as well. And I think longer form of content is something you will enjoy doing more. Yes, it's a lot of work, but when you finally get that video which you enjoyed making, and when you get those views as well, you're gonna love it. And we have had that with one video we have made. Till now, we've made this one video, which we spent almost over a month on, editing, recording, doing everything, and it felt the best. It's like it was the best feeling. So,
I'm excited.
So I think you'll definitely enjoy that.
YouTube's my hobby. Like that's the ground for me. That's the platform that I fell in love with. So I'm excited for it. I'm nervous.
I'm looking forward to see your content on that.
You're going to get a phone call from me soon. You're like, I need some advice, Jazz. Definitely. How did you do it?
I mean, once again, I think there are so many videos on YouTube which explain the algorithm so well. And if you can just get that title and thumbnail and that video on point, there's nothing stopping you from getting like 1 million subscribers on YouTube. And so that's my plan. And I know you will smash it as well. Now I'm just going to ask you the 7 Inkspired Mind deep questions, because these are just 7 questions which I love asking people. So the first question is, what motivates you to work hard?
That's a great question. I think I love learning, and this content creation full-time job is just full of learning opportunities. So just the ability to get that little bit better every day at something that I'm enjoying keeps me wanting to just keep going.
I mean, that's a great answer. Thank you for that. Second one is an interesting one, because I love the answer for this from everyone.
Oh, no.
What is your definition of success?
I wanted to say happiness immediately, but I don't think it is happiness, because like being happy is like when you're hanging out with like your friends and family. I don't think like happiness necessarily is like writing a script. So maybe more like fulfillment or constant development, again, leaning on question 1. That idea that like there's always more for me to learn, for me to do, for me to improve at. Because if I ever hit a ceiling, I think that like that's where boredom strikes. And boredom is something that I don't want. I always want to kind of be excited to turn up to the next day.
I think that was a great answer, because fulfillment is a really important thing in life, is because sometimes you could be happy, but you need that inner peace, inner fulfillment as well. That's a great answer. Question number 3. What is your end goal? Like, why are you doing all this?
Death. Why am I doing this? I think like if you want to get back to the basics, I used to love traveling, and then I wanted a career that I could do whilst traveling, but I'm not going to be traveling for the whole of my life. So why am I doing this? I suppose, like I said, I've always had that entrepreneurial drive inside of me to basically create my own thing. And this is definitely something, but I don't think it's going to be the only thing that I end up creating. I think there's going to be a lot of things that lead off this that might be completely different to content creation. Like I know that you've got your FBA and things like that, and you're probably going to be developing into a lot of other things as well. So I think the reason why I'm doing this is to give myself opportunities. I think I'm opening a lot more doors through this career than I could through any other career. And I was going to say, just whether that's through like networking, again, through skills I'm learning, or just through opportunities that I've created. It's wild. You don't get this kind of quantity of opportunities anywhere else.
And I think like being a content creator, I think even 5 years down from now is going to be such a big thing, because like you said, the amount of opportunities you can build for yourself or get from like Mr. Beast or the Sidemen. They have built a
astronomical,
from just their personal brand, they're able to now diversify into food restaurants, or like, I don't know, clothing lines and stuff like that. So I think that's definitely a great way to look at it as well. Moving on to question number 4. This is a question I came up with yesterday. I'm sure that you already heard of it, but if money wasn't a thing, would you still be doing what you're doing?
Yes. No hesitation. Just straight.
Love that.
I love it. I enjoy it. If money was no object, I would continue very much creating content. It's what I love to do. It's a passion. It started as a passion. It didn't start because of the money. It can't start because of the money. So if I started it before I had money coming in, I definitely would carry on after I have money coming in. I don't need the money.
Love that. And the next question is, would you be rich and unhappy, or poor and happy?
I think poor and happy.
Poor and happy.
I think once you've consumed the amount of kind of like the development and like the books that we've read. I suppose both of us. Obviously, money is amazing. It leads to opportunities, but just having that like kind of like the more meaningful things.
Yeah.
Obviously, also going through a lot of kind of like personal events in my own life over the past month or two, like with marriage and other things that happen in the family. You kind of realize there are things that are more important than owning something or buying a car or having a big house. So I think that one's quite easy for me to answer right now.
Yeah, really well answered. And I think any day I would choose being poor and happy as well. Question number 6. 3 things you would like to change about the world.
Say 3 things.
3 things. There's plenty, isn't it?
I suppose if we try and keep it on topic, I think one would be to give people the confidence to pursue things that they are too scared to pursue but want to pursue. I think that would be an incredible world if everyone would just like take that risk and take that step into what they wanted. I feel like I should probably just say like world peace, just because that's an easy one to check off a list, because you've asked me for 3 and I don't know 3. And if you don't say that, you're gonna have in the comments, whoa, he said everyone should be confident, but he didn't ask for peace.
The thing is, even 1 is fine. So
yeah, well, I've done 2 now, so I have to do 3, right?
Yeah.
Something else that I would change.
What about the content world?
Change about the content world?
Yeah.
So I suppose it would just link back to number 1. Make people realize that starting's the most important thing. I suppose we've moved it from changing the world to just giving lessons for content creation. But yeah, I think the ability to start and taking that first step is the hardest step. And people often don't jump into content because they don't know how to start. But once you've done that first thing, don't overthink it. Just post anything, wherever it is, a blog, a video, a TikTok. Because once you've done that, it gets easier each time for sure. And don't get it wrong, like we both probably look quite confident on camera now because we're used to it.
Yeah.
But your first video, like I was nervous.
Yeah.
I was nervous to make it. I was nervous to
post it,
like film it, and hit post was scary.
Yeah.
Second one was less scary, but still scary. But it just gets easier over time. And then you also get better over time as well. So it's kind of like the 2 go hand in hand.
And I think most people don't understand. Like most people will compare your 100 with their 1, like day 1. It doesn't make sense to me, and that's where most people go wrong. They're like, they want to be as good as you, but it just won't work. They need to get better as
comparisons is dangerous, especially in content creation. People obviously are always going to get opportunities that you're not going to get, and they're at different levels to you.
Yeah.
Just look after yourself and keep pushing yourself, and things will be okay. Like even me and you, we're on similar numbers, let's say on TikTok, but we can't compare it the things that we're doing, because we've had different opportunities.
Yep.
We have different slightly styles now as well. We're going down different paths in other hobbies. So if we try and compare, like if I'm like, oh, but you've got that 100K on YouTube, but I haven't made a YouTube video in a year. So like, I can't complain. We're at different levels at different things. So comparison is a thief. It's dangerous.
Yeah. And it's a thief to your joy as well.
Yeah.
And moving on to the last question, your top 3 self-improvement books.
Oh no. Let's shout out Steal Like an Artist, Austin Kleon. Easy one off the shelf. I think one of like the pinnacles of like personal development is the 4-hour work week. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of what's in there, because I don't even think I want a 4-hour work week. But I think it's just such a staple when it comes to personal development that you need to read it. And another one that I like, I can't remember again who wrote it, but I think it's called The Courage to be Disliked.
Okay.
It rings a bell because I think it was one of the earliest books I read. And it's just all about this idea that like, it's okay for people to not like what you're doing. It's like, and it also addresses that whole idea of like, you live in your own spotlight. Yeah. Like you're not anyone else's main character in their life. You're only your own main character. And I think that helps me a lot, like get confident and pursue this kind of career that we're going into, which is a little bit more public than, and it has a lot more, like we mentioned, haters and people that won't like what you're doing. But that's another good one that I would recommend.
I definitely will put that to my read list.
I'll send you a link.
Courage to be Disliked. Yes, definitely. Thank you for those amazing answers. And now the final is not part of the deep questions, but before we end the podcast, there's always one rituals we do, which is that one advice you would give to that person sitting on the other side of the screen who wants to start content creation, but they just don't know where to get started from.
I would say, I'm trying to think of a good one, but just get to level 1. You're often, we mentioned this in other ways again a few times, but people are so focused to getting to level 100 that they forget there are 100 levels between then. Just work on one thing at a time. Obviously, I'm assuming that you're ready, you know kind of what you want to post about, and you're happy to hit post on the internet. Just improve one thing with every video.
Yeah.
And you're going to look back at 100 video and laugh at your video number 1, but you're also going to look back at when you're at number 200 and laugh at number 100. So that would be my step. Don't try to do it all at once. Increase level 1 to level 2 to level 3.
That was a great answer and a great advice for anyone who's looking to become a content creator. So Gabriel, thank you so much for joining us on this amazing podcast.
My pleasure, man. Thank you for having me.
And guys, if you don't know Gabriel's, all his social media links, I'm sure you know if you're watching this podcast, all the social media links is in the description or the podcast notes. So I'll see you guys, or I'll not see you guys. If you're on YouTube, I'll see you guys in the next podcast. So take care, have an amazing day, and peace.